Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. This is After the Roll, the Legend of Vox Machina, breaking down the latest and most current episode of Vox Machina. How are you, everyone? Tonight, I am being joined by my co-host, LJ Stanton, and Sporkle McSpork, or Billy. How are you both doing tonight?
I am concerned about Billy's lack of mug and lack of beard, but other than that, I'm cool.
Excellent. Yes, as you may have noticed, we are missing some hair on screen tonight.
Yeah, minus my lack of mug and my lack of beard, I'm doing well as well, and I'm very excited to talk about some Vox Machina.
That is fantastic. What an episode. I have to say, I think the last episode, LJ was talking about all the feels. This episode was full of feels. The end of this episode was like a gut punch. So let's talk our way
A beautifully done gut punch.
Oh, it was. It was just so, like, I love the fact that Grog is like an emotional foil during the show. He's this big, dumb, dopey kind of guy, but he's just got this massive heart and just tosses so much emotion into the episodes. And today he did not fail.
That's one of the big things I actually really love about this episode, is that despite the fact that the meat of the episode is a massive conflict, there are many really great emotional moments between different characters, and none of them emotions are ever invalidated. Like, even when they're potentially like an incorrect level of metaphor or anything like that, there's never a moment of somebody doing you just don't understand. You don't get it. It's always just I am having emotions and I'm having feelings and I might not be able to articulate them well. And the other person just doing you're trying. And I appreciate that. And I just love how positive that is. So you're not getting any stupid, contrived drama in this group. And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Which I think is great, because there's already enough drama. We don't need any contrived drama, because there is so much going on.
Yeah.
There is. And even with the emotion that they do have, none of it's ever contrived emotion. Like, even when Percy pushes back and he's like, we're obviously going to get to it, but when he pushes back and he's like, yeah, you know what, that's great, but it's not the same thing because of this. It's not like a slap down. It's not like to minimize or to, get into a measuring contest. It's just like, I understand that, but I just need you to know that there's another level that I'm dealing with this as well. And again, even that was so heartfelt. But yeah.
Yes.
Shadows at the Gate. That's a very appropriate name for this one.
Yes.
Yeah. And I love the fact, too, that we get more backstory of three characters. Well, kind of three characters. In the sense that we get more backstory for Percy, we get more backstory for Keyleth, and then we get to see a little bit more of Grog and Pike's relationship. And acknowledge that there is more, at the end, where he's like, just like the old days. And it's like, there is more to them. So we get more backstory. We get more of a connectedness, cohesiveness of who you kind of get to build up a little bit of who came in where, who was together where before they became a group.
Yeah, because that, Vex and Vax, obviously brother and sister. So they've been together for a long time, clearly. But you don't know how the group formed or why they came together or anything like that. So it is really neat to get to see what were the pre-existing relationships? I mean, you can kind of assume that Percy has been alone up until coming and being part of Vox Machina, which then also really begs the question of why he joined up with a group of misfits who were clearly not originally going to be helping him with his personal journey or quest.
Ooh. Because he was a king without a home and a boy without a family.
Oh, God.
So I had
So I
interject
might
there.
have mentioned today that it's going to be real hard going back to Wheel of Time after this. I'm not going to lie, because these have been much, much tighter narratives
Yeah.
and a lot more fun. But that shade aside, it was really neat to get to have that moment of realizing it's like, oh, Pike and Grog, like they didn't just like become adorable besties while being part of Vox Machina. They became adorable besties doing something somewhere previous to this. Probably got in a fight in a tavern and we're on the same side, something like that. But it's so cute to see their dynamic and really get to see all of it.
Yeah.
I think it also just lends to the fact that they've been dropping little nuggets to try to paint the picture that this relationship is there since the very first episode, and now we're getting like some actual confirmation that that wasn't just something you were kind of like, ooh, is there something there? It is. There is history between these two characters in some way, and that's why they're so tight. And if you think back to some of these episodes, Grog's like picking Pike up. He's always there to comfort her.
On his
Originally,
shoulders.
that pissed me off so much in the first episode. I was like, there better be a payoff on that, because there's nothing more like invalidating and infuriating as like a smaller person when somebody just manhandles you out of the way. So like the idea, I'm sure, that would be so frustrating to just the gnomes in general is having people just pick them up and do things with them. You know, kind of the same way that like a wheelchair user gets very upset if you just roll them out of the way when it's the, excuse you, I can do this myself. So the fact that she didn't get upset about it was very much the like, I kind of was waiting for the payoff after that first episode to find out, like, is this something they've overlooked, or is this something that is saying there's a lot more to these two characters? And I love that it's the latter and not the former.
Yeah. There's no dwarf tossing going on.
Not yet.
No non-consensual dwarf tossing.
But yeah, it's great. Just the connection that they have, and again, how they play out the emotion, how they play out their relationships with people. And like Billy said last time, they drop hints and clues at other stories that they've done, other storylines, other things factoring in. And I didn't quite catch it, but when Vex and Vax are talking, and they're like, well, we've been in worse situations before. And then Vax is like, oh yeah, whatever it was, like somewhere that they escaped, or we escaped worse places. And Vax is like, oh, this. And it's like, okay, well, that's an obvious nod to another storyline that is probably at some point going to come up or be flashed back to, or be referenced back. Or even if they don't, like they've made just that little bit adds so much more depth to the universe. And they're doing, again, a great job. I do have a bone to pick with this one, though, so I'm going to leave it to the end.
Same.
I do have something that I'm like, that's, nope.
Ooh, I'm very intrigued now because I want to know. I will admit that this has been one of my more bony episodes.
Yeah. For me, it was just a continuity issue.
Mm-hmm.
Was the big thing. And it's really sad that it happened because they did this rest of the scene so well. But the fact that they did the rest of the scene so well really makes a continuity issue glare like a beacon of light being held by Keyleth. So let's get into it.
Needs nerfing. I'm just saying that needs to be Delilah's next priority. Hardcore next priority right there.
Druids, man. Druids.
Yeah. Well, she needs to deal with that problem because Keyleth is a problem.
Yeah. That is.
I appreciate that you guys have like a bone to pick with this episode because I'm just sitting here being like, I would like 2 shadow monsters. Okay, actually, I've hit a point where I would like 3 shadow monsters.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. I'll go with 3. It's
those shadows that I in my notes I put them down as shades. I don't know why, but yeah, the
whatever
monsters.
they are.
I wrote them down as ring wraiths.
There you go.
Okay, then I want 9 or just that one.
Well, you know what? Let's get into it. The bone to pick that I had was when they're sitting at the table and Scanlan is looking at the book, And then Vax comes up and talks to him. Scanlan slides the book directly across the table to Vax. After he's been reading it, Vax looks down. The book is upside down. And then they do this really cool thing where he's like, well, continue translating. And he spins the book and knocks it forward, which made the book face him. Like, they didn't turn the book the first time. Why make such a big deal of, like, spinning in this really cool flourish when the book wasn't turned around the wrong way to begin with?
Because neither of them can read it.
I know, but still. Like, I was like, oh, because then Scanlan's looking through and he's like, oh, look, you can see the wolves, and it's facing him directly again. It was just, again, it's such a small little blip. But for me, I'm like, that was such a cool animation. That was such a cool scene that they did with that. And even if they had Vax reach out and kind of put his hand on it and twist it as he pulled it forward and then spun it back to him, the way he did would have been great. But that little thing of the way the book was facing was improper, was my bone to pick.
Yeah, and I agree that in these episodes that are just so good and like there's just so much to take away from it, it's small things like that become very apparent just because everything else is so good.
Exactly. When they don't have the errors jump.
Yeah. It's like, oh, wow. Because that, like, in any other animation I think that I've ever seen,
you
never would have noticed that.
No.
Yeah.
Never.
I mean, you literally wouldn't care because there'd be so many things like that where you'd just be like, whatever, it's animated. Because you see that even happening with like actual prop books where somebody picks it up and reads it the wrong way or whatever, and those kinds of continuity errors. But when as you both are saying, like when it is so tight and the animation styles are so good, and especially like for somebody as keen and I as Travis, when it comes to those little details about animation styles, it very much does become the like, for real? You made this funky flourish, but you didn't follow through with it.
Yeah. It happens.
My book problem was the mustard. The mustard goes on the book, and I'm like, death. No. Delilah, if I were her, if I opened my book again, whenever she gets that book back, if I opened my book and found a fucking mustard stain, it would be I will hunt you to the ends of the earth to absolutely destroy your soul.
To be fair, he did smear it on the page. He didn't just leave a glob.
I don't think that makes it better. There was no dabbing to make it clean or any of those kinds of things.
Exactly. I think my problem with it was I assume that kind of glob of mustard onto a book like that would cause the page to be unreadable. Not because there's so much mustard you can't see, but I imagine that it's going to smudge or something. Now, that may just come down to the fact that, this book must have some kind of magical properties. It's obviously something like really important and insane, so
it survived
maybe
the water.
That's why. Right, exactly. So maybe that's grasping at straws, but it was definitely something that I was like, getting mustard all over the book and it's fine. Come on.
No, what I really want now is for Delilah to get her book back. And also for her to like find that page and be able to just be like, ugh, and just magic away the mustard and just be like, amateurs. You can't destroy shit with mustard.
Yeah.
That would be great.
The thing that caught me about the mustard was the fact that it's mustard. We all know the properties of mustard. And I did kind of get that impression of like, okay, well, because I was talking last time about the book in the water and whether or not it survived. And, if it's a spell book, it should be able to survive something. When Scanlan wipes it off, it goes translucent. Yep. You can see through it. So to me, that was kind of like, okay, you give one more wipe and it's going to be gone. Like, it's not going to actually impact and sting the page. But maybe I'm just being too hopeful. Because I was actually just talking about that with my daughter the other day. She threw a book off a table and it landed. I'm like, no, we don't wreck books in this house.
Yeah. I still am making up for the many books that I destroyed as a small child. I was just trying to write in them with crayons.
There's worse ways you could destroy a book as a child.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think I ripped them apart at any point. I think that I just took crayons to them, and they were usually my own books at least. So my parents had very good sense to keep me away from anything of any importance until they could instill upon me, you do not do this to a book.
Right.
Exactly.
So my bone, I'm actually gonna hold my bone
All right.
until we get to the subject matter. I think it'll make more sense when we get into it.
Okay. Well, let's dive into that. So we do start off the episode with the whole group being ripped a new one by the Sovereign. And over everything that happened is a little bit of an overreaction of everything. Kind of, I think, painting the picture to be a little more dire, having caused instability across the realm and destroying political relationships. And it's like, that might be a little heavy-handed.
To be fair, how much of that was the brawl with the Briarwoods, and how much of that was pull my beads? Because I'm pretty sure that there could be a significant portion of it that was my entire guest group was scandalized by your bard and is never coming back to my palace.
But
I don't know. Scanlan seemed to think that it went over very well.
Exactly. He said they loved it.
Scanlan is the one to judge that. I really don't think he's the one to judge that.
Are you saying he's not perceptive?
No. Would never imply that. No.
I'm pretty sure he's perceptive. I'm just thinking maybe his judgment might be clouded.
Yes. By a lot. By a lot.
Yeah. You actually missed some stuff the other night, Billy, that we were talking about writing erotica on another stream.
Oh my.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sad I missed it.
Don't
worry, you can catch all of it on my Discord. It is it's somewhere. The clips I think are in the stream clips where it was very much a thirsty Thursday.
Yeah,
I'll just
Travis.
find it.
I caught everyone off guard, which was nice. So,
Beautiful.
Did you pull out the calendar?
No. I just made some comments that I don't think anyone has ever heard me make on stream before.
There might have been some masturbation comments.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
At minimum.
And talk about anal beads and fuck sticks.
Yeah.
Wow, speaking of holding the bone. All right.
There you go.
That actually is one of the things that I feel really bad for Billy about with this past episode is that it got this 16 plus rating. There's no Scanlan ass. Like, there's...
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was actually
there
pretty
were-
tame for Scanlan-esque
Yeah,
stuff.
there were no bum. It was definitely rated for violence, not for any kind of sexual innuendo, for sure. It was tame.
Yeah.
It was. But I think that's good. You can't, if you hit the same drum, the same beat over and over again, episode after episode after episode, it falls flat. And I like the fact that they don't do that. Like, again, I'm just consistently impressed with the thought. Maybe we're reading into it too deep. Maybe there's they're going to come back and they're going to look at this and be like, yeah, we didn't think of that. We just wrote it. But it seems to be that they put a lot of thought.
I have that happen all the time.
You know, because they're either genius writers or they've really, like we've said before, they've looked at tropes and things that fell flat previously or that they didn't like or that they wanted to actively walk away from and seem to be doing a damn good job doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that is the thing. Like, it's very much been a world appropriate moment of sexuality or violence. Like, it is you're not seeing Scanlan just immediately always going 100% balls deep into everything, because sometimes it's not appropriate and sometimes it's not helpful, and he can tell the difference some of the time. And it is nice to have it be no, they were in a fight for their lives this episode. There was not time to be cracking jokes about the shadow monster, shades, ring wraiths. They were going to die if they did that.
Yeah. And to be fair, Scanlan missed the first fight. Or the
Briarwood fight.
The Briarwood fight, yeah. I mean, he was there for the dragon, obviously, but this is his first actual taste of the Briarwoods and what messing with them
Diggity.
feels like.
Yeah. Oh, diggity. Oh.
But yeah, so Allura steps in and says, "You're under house arrest. You try to leave. Well, you can't leave anywhere. Stay in your estate." and then that's ends up what happens. And we see the team beaten and bloody again for a little quick continuity thing. See the team standing there beaten and bloody, and then the next scene they're back in their estate and everyone's fine and all the wounds are healed. But I think that just comes down to, I think that just comes down to a thing of animation and time. Like, we know they were beat up, we know they were hurt, and I think most cartoons or most animations you see the wounds fade away pretty quickly after a battle, especially when they're about to get a whole host of more wounds coming at them.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of feel like at that point too, it's almost they clearly were in a fight, and they've clearly had some kind of, their wounds have been patched in one way or another. They still are, heroes and protectors of the realm. It wouldn't surprise me if it was okay, well, while we're escorting you back to your keep, we're going to also send a healer along with you who cracks a few spells, and for the most part, you're not going to die, therefore you're good. And again, as you said, for the fact that there's only so much time and attention you want to spend on wounds in a half-hour cartoon.
Yeah.
When there's so much else you need to work on.
So I absolutely agree with you. But my argument with this part, and this is one of my bones. I said I had many bones this episode. One of my bones is we are starting to see in this episode that Pike's having a problem.
Yeah.
Pike is having a problem getting her magic to fire off, and we go from this party that's seriously wounded to them being healed, but we don't get the chance to see Pike not be able to heal them. We don't know who did heal them. It makes perfect sense that it's someone in the castle, they got healed on their journey, and maybe we don't need to see that. But I think it's just curious that what we do get is Pike not being able to create light, instead of Pike not being able to heal the serious wounds that the party has.
See, I took that as a hidden thing of one of those, if you're looking, you're going to find it. And that was actually something I was going to bring up, is the fact that we know at the end of the episode that Pike can't heal. And we see them standing, getting ripped apart, and they're all beaten and bloody and broken up. And to me, that was kind of a thing of like, if you're paying attention, you'll notice that Pike hasn't healed anybody. Mm-hmm. So there is that's the subtle intro of okay, we're going to be dealing with Pike's problems. Because I think it would have been a little bit redundant to have her try to heal and not heal, try the light and not have the light, all those things. I thought that was just kind of like a gentle, they've got a lot of subtle things.
Well, and they have a lot on their plate at that time, because it is very rapid fire how quickly all of this happens. That I agree, in some ways it would have been nice to have a moment that maybe would have been hey, Pike, can you take care? Oh no, we'll just have our healers after this, something like that. Yeah. But I enjoyed the fact that when there is one big overarching problem, the Briarwoods had just shown up, they just got in this massive fight, they've all been pretty badly knocked around. The fact that there's a huge difference between the way that they deal with Percy and his trauma popping up versus Pike and her trauma appearing is pretty stark, but it's so believable. They're not really there for Pike at the start, when she does she's holding the Everlight or the talisman and just does whatever she said. They don't take that moment to be like, whoa, that's weird. Why is she so distracted? Or when she can't conjure the light in the tunnel, doing the whoa, hold up, what's going on with you? And I liked that it was a case of they're kind of all dropping the ball in dealing with Pike, but believably so, because of the fact that there is something so massively problematic in front of them that there's only so much bandwidth that you have as a person to deal with problems, that when you have a rather giant bomb dropped from Percy, that it makes sense to see Pike getting kind of swept under the rug a little bit until it can't be avoided or tossed aside anymore.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to add on to that, I like that the only person that does recognize that something's wrong with Pike is Grog, which, I mean, just lends to that relationship that we're starting to see. So I completely agree, and I'm not saying that it wasn't skipped for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
they could have handled it better. Yeah, they could have handled it better.
Maybe.
But the other thing too, though, is that if they had have handled it too early in the episode, the final scene would have lost its punch. If they had have had all of what we've just discussed, and the why are you reacting this way, and trying to pry into that, then that emotional punch at the end of the episode falls flat. And so I can see why they kind of kept that off to the side. And I also like to think of it as, in a lot of books and things that I've read, the little people, children, gnomes, kinder, dwarves, all tend to get, for mind the pun, overlooked. The bigger people, the taller people, the people that take up more space in the room tend to be the ones that get the more of the attention. When there is something happening with one of the smaller statured, it kind of tends to be overlooked a lot more quickly in things. But again, with Grog, with that whole scene of there being under house arrest, how do you arrest a house? Like,
yeah.
Oh, Grog.
He's very. I appreciate
Grogisms.
that he is very literal at times, but he also isn't like. It's not annoying. Like, it's not something that happens all the time, so that it's not just like, yes, we get it, you're Drax, move on. Like, he has enough meat to him and he understands enough stuff that you kind of are doing the, like, okay, do you actually, like, mean to sound this dumb? Or are you pulling I am smart, but this is funny, so I'm saying it, and nobody can quite tell whether I mean it or not?
See, that's the funny thing, because some of the more higher level stuff he picks up on pretty quick.
Like that.
And then the more simple stuff is like putting your right foot forward is like, well, which one is that? It's just he plays dumb so well. But I mean, maybe that's one of those things of, know your enemy and make your enemy think they know you. They think you're a dumb, bumbling buffoon. Because it seems to be usually when he's in front of other people is when he's really dumb. And when he's alone with the group is when he's a little more poignant.
Yeah. Yeah.
No comment.
Well, he's like, I have answers.
So the team gets arrested and they get all their weapons confiscated. I love that scene where we actually see one of the guards like standing outside and just like wobbling under this giant mound of weapons again.
I love that the captain is intelligent. The captain of the guard, whatever his name was, Captain Jarrett.
Jarrett, yeah.
I love that he is an intelligent human being, and it just makes me very happy.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, they get their weapons confiscated, and then we see that Lady Briarwood is a little bit pissed off that something is missing from her
I don't know what you're talking about.
chest.
You steal my book, I'm pissed at you.
She seemed perfectly fine to me.
She missed her
You
morning
touch my
coffee.
things, you steal my book? Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
I adore the way that Delilah and Silas talk to each other because they are such an adorable couple.
Really, they really are.
Yeah. Like, I love him doing the, like, it's okay. You don't need it. And, like, we can fix this really easy.
We have ways.
And just all of the reassurances that he gives to do the, no, it's fine. And then the whole, you always take me to the most lovely places.
Exactly.
Be
Yeah.
like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, these are
Yes, you
awesome,
do.
awesome characters, and that scene was just wow. So I was just sitting there when it happened. My jaw kind of dropped. I'm like, oh, so we got necromancy going on in this. All right, but like
It made me so happy.
we've seen her wield magic. We've seen the magic come out of her, the amulets in her necklace. We've seen her do different things, and then this time when we actually see her like really do magic, we see the hands go black and become bigger and clawed like dragon claws, and reach back and like dig into the ground or like put the energy into the ground. And it's just there's like, okay, you saw this scary wicked person before, now you're actually going to get introduced to her about what she's actually about a little bit more. And I thought that was just an impressive show of power that on her behalf.
Well, yeah, because you've seen I'm not going to say you've seen like the peak of what Silas can do, but you've seen how much of a brute he is and how much brute force he brings to this side of the couple. And yeah, as you said, you've seen her do magic, but it's very much been so easy for her. It's just been, a flick of the wrist. It's just, and she can skip across water, or she's, destroying Pike's magic or whatever. It's there isn't a lot of draw from her, but the amount of effort that goes into that spell in the graveyard, like, it is completely conceivable for me to see like Silas have to carry her back to the carriage type deal of a like, no, this looked like it was physically just fucking exhausting having to do that, which, as it should be when you're pulling monsters out of the ground and making them and all of that, like, that's a little bit extra work. So
yeah, it's a little extra. It's not quite the ease of the scream magic she was showing before. This is some real beefy stuff.
Yeah. And yeah, terrifying shit. Beautifully terrifying shit.
That it definitely was. But so we just get a little bit more. And again, I love the casualness they use when showcasing Silas's power, when he walks up to the graveyard gates and just rips them apart and walks in. Like, it's just, again, when you look at it, there's the giant lock on the gate, and you see the chain wrapped around multiple times, and another lock, and it's just like paper that he rips apart. And they do such a good job of showing his powers.
Unlike Vox Machina, he doesn't have a problem with doors.
No.
No.
They didn't have that much of a problem with doors either this episode. They were pretty efficient. Beyond being locked in.
I'm trying to think of what doors they had to open.
Well, they had the secret door.
They had to open any doors this episode.
Well, they had to find the secret door that Percy found.
Okay.
And Grog destroyed the sanctuary door to go up because they were locked in.
That's true.
And I guess the doors being problematic, maybe you could take in the fact that they were locked into their thing and all the doors were locked.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't exactly trying to unlock doors in this one.
No.
Yes.
Well, Grog did his thing to unlock Pike's sanctuary door. But
one thing, just a thought, as far as good continuity, since we've had a couple of continuity bones to pick, is that Silas's sash still has that stab wound in it, in his costume, from that one good shot that Percy had off. And yeah, it's that was still there, which was nice to see, because it's that I almost didn't expect. So it was really nice to have that very obviously showcased, that it's no, he was temporarily injured for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. And I like the fact that they didn't have the cloth heal over. You see that in different things where the wound heals and the cloth heals. It's like, how? No. So the fact that there is still this hole is really well done. But yeah, and then we get to learn a little bit more about all the characters as they're sitting, finally doing my scene with the across the table.
Yes.
I've been looking forward to this.
But we get to see Pike going through a bad day. We get a little bit more of a dig into Percy and his life and what's going on with him, and how he dodges the question about the smoke being it's just gunpowder that's burning. And then we also get to know...
Yeah, that was kind of expert dodging right there. Of no. Which then comes into great contrast when later he promises no more secrets, and it's like, well, that's a bald-faced lie.
Yeah, that's where they're like, that's in my mind. I'm like, okay, so next episode you're gonna tell us about the smoke, right? But then they go back to the you don't know, and then again with then tell us, let us know. But we do also see Pike really, and that's the first time that we actually, I mean, it's not the first time we see Pike entering into her dark hour. There are things when she grabs the amulet And it's like, no, in the last episode. And she plays with it, she's holding it. Like, you can tell that there's something going on. But this is the first time the storyline actually sits down and focuses, where she's by herself looking at it and trying to process what's happening. So even before we get to the book and all the other stuff that happened in there was a lot that happened. Like, in that one room, there's a lot that happened in this episode. And again, it's such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Right? And we get the backstory of Percy, of actually what happened. And a question that I had was, did his tutor always look like that? Or is that after he became possessed by Silas? Because when he's talking about his backstory and the tutor turning on him, he's this grotesque troll-looking kind of creature.
No, there's two of them.
His tutor. There's two of them, yeah, but
yeah,
there's the one that they focused on in particular. And I was like, so the two of them, did they always look like that? Or is that something that, through the corruption of evil, of joining forces with the Briarwoods, caused them to transform into these kind of more grotesque creatures?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I would be more than happy to comment on that in a few weeks.
Another one of my little loving details in story time with Percy, when he was talking about their escape attempt with his sister after talking about the fact that they were tortured and all of that, is that you see his hand and you see that he has no fingernails and that there's just blood at the end of his fingers. And it was just, that made me very happy, because you also, it made me very happy because, as somebody who has tortured many a good character, it was you do that when you are trying to break someone, not when you're trying to necessarily get anything from them. And you can see that with the details of how they were tortured, is that they were going to be prepped for something, and the foundation of that was all being laid there, because you didn't have, one, they weren't killed quickly, and two, there was nothing terribly grotesque that happened to them that couldn't be undone relatively easily. Your fingernails are probably going to grow back, but if they chop off your nose, that's pretty final. And it was just really interesting to see that. And also the whole Percy's hair changing color, which is like such a huge, like, hey, he was a little stressed.
Yeah.
Probably a little too quick, but, assuming that also there might have been some magic involved with that.
Well, that's the other thing that I had was, why not just use the mind control over them? If you're trying to break them, why not just have Silas come in and make them do what they want to do? I assume
there's limits to how often he can do that. And
so
whatnot.
Yeah. So I would argue also on top of it that there are some growing pains associated with his abilities, and maybe he didn't have full control over them yet.
Oh, it could be.
The other thing is that when you have a whole bunch of minions that maybe have a personal beef with the DeRollo family, that it is also a very good way of having your minions continue to like you and want to work for you if you do hey, you hate this little prick? You can't kill him. You cannot permanently disfigure him, but go have fun.
Yeah.
And that would not surprise me at all if they were not getting their own hands dirty and it was just no, you guys have fun. You earned it. Go brutalize some children. As you do.
Why not? But it also can be a critical mass.
As one does. Also, again, you don't trust people with D names either. I'm just putting that out there as Billy should understand from my book. And then Delilah, apparently it's just a thing with women with D names, is that they're really not trustworthy. Just putting that out there.
There we go. But it could also be a critical mass thing. If he's trying to hold mind control over, 15 people in the castle, then trying to mind control 2 children might just be 2 steps.
A little bit too much.
Well, and I wonder too, even just how much easier adults are to control compared to children in a lot of ways, because of the fact that like children have less control over their emotions. So like if it's extreme emotion perhaps that can help break you out of mind control, if this child is terrified of what's happened, it might just be a I can't deal with the amount of effort that is required to calm this mind down enough to just shut the fuck up so I can control it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also argue that specifically with Percy, based on what he witnessed and everything that's happening specifically to him, he probably had even more like angry emotion at those points that could have maybe made it difficult to control his mind as well. And then maybe Percy's just really resistant to mind control.
I was gonna say, there's something with Percy, right? He's extremely intelligent. He's very apt. There could be something that's there. But the other thing that
he's obviously intelligent.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. I just build a gun by hand in this medieval world, NBD.
Yeah, and again, you see him kind of doing that when they're locked away. That they take away his weapon, so he's like, all right, I'm just gonna build another one. But I found too that when Scanlan is going through the book, and he's like, oh look, there's like a diary of their evil deeds, and look, there's like mass murder and wolves, and then you see the wolf, and then when they do the flashback, you see the wolf sitting there with blood dripping off its maw, and I'm like, that's like, is that actually the page in the book that they can't read, that Percy is detailing to them about what happened?
I am quite partial to the concept of spell books as both spell book and personal diary. And I kind of love having the idea of that being melded for Delilah and having it be a book that is both, you know, her cataloging things that she wants to remember, both part of her life and things that might be useful for spells later on, or then just spells that are going to be working towards the whispered one or whispering one, and all of that. So like I am excited to find out a great deal more about this book if Scanlan will stop dropping food on it.
To be fair, it's a condiment, not food.
That's still food. You eat it. But also, like, as someone who hates having like food on my hands, like I don't enjoy eating ribs and whatnot. Watching him be like, I shove my hand in the mustard and slather it all over things, we're just like, it's so gross. So that's the only thing so far in the entire series that I've gone me like, why? No.
I really enjoy him trying to make a sandwich in the background of everything else happening in that scene.
Ripping bread.
Yeah, exactly.
But then the sandwich comes out so clean.
It's so clean.
Like, it's such a well-made sandwich at the end. It's amazing. Yeah. But
magic. That is 100% like he has put some like fucking magic on it to make it look pretty by the end. Some fucking illusion or something.
Exactly. But then there's also the scene with Vax being like, am I turning into a vampire? And I love Vex's just like,
yeah,
it was just such a gentle little, like, again, not going into it, and they could have wasted 5 lines of dialogue with that. It was, and that was a question that we had even last time, like, is this going to do something? And they really quick with a question and a look, it's done, and we can move on. They do such a good job at skipping over the questions that need to be answered but are inconsequential to the rest of the story.
Yeah, I withdraw the question.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'd be like, oh, yeah, so you're fine. You were going to be eaten, not turned.
Yeah,
slight difference.
Yes.
Exactly. And then they do.
So that's the thing. Vax is the one who's the actual snack. Poor Scanlan.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that last one.
Yeah,
where when he got his thing back, and then he's just like, "See, I told you I'm a snack." I'm like, "He returned your loot. He didn't hit on you."
Jarrett went out of his way to return that loot. Like,
I guess that's true. Yeah,
brought.
I guess that's true. He brought it to him personally, and there was that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe he really liked the anal beads of love, or Polemon beads of love. Maybe that's the
Maybe.
Maybe it struck a chord with him.
Or several.
But then I love the fact that they explain that, the Briarwoods came in under a guise of friendliness and wanting to support. And it's the same thing that they're doing right here and now. You see them come in with this concept of like, we're just part of the realm. We want to support you. We want to help you, and that kind of thing. And then so it's after they talk about this thing, and we see that, again, to me, I thought Keyleth kind of clued in a little bit there, because Keyleth seems to be very perceptive, but she doesn't deal with her perceptions. So like, she asks Pike, like, can you, like, what are your thoughts on this? And Pike responds. And again, kind of like with during the dinner where she was like, and had that reaction, it was the same thing kind of with this, where she was like, okay, there's something happening, but she never pushes further. She never she clues in there's something not right and then doesn't dig into it. She just lets it go.
She has crippling anxiety, I think, is what it comes down to. Is that she's extraordinarily perceptive, but because of that self-doubt and that anxiety, she just does well, I'm wrong. Somebody else will have noticed it. I don't have to deal with this, right? Somebody else will deal with it. Is very much how I feel like she just kind of is that she just gets paralyzed by that hope that she's not going to have to be the one to deal with it because she's not certain that she's getting the right idea.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the other thing, too, I like is how they show her how well she handles her abilities. When she is calm, everything flows like water. Like when she walked out in the morning and she does that little spin and last episode, and the vines come out and all the flowers bloom. And even with this one, she's just sitting at the table and pulls out her hand and flower comes up, she plucks it, tucks it into her hair. And it's just so inconsequential, so easy. It just kind of flows and she does it. And then it's when the pressure is on that she has these panic attacks and can I handle this? Can I do this? And she really has to kind of fight to draw her power. But when she does, it's expansive. It's amazing what she can do. But she, really has trouble reacting in the scene, in the moment.
And being on the topic of Keyleth, I love that you can see where her anxiety stems from, because it's all coming from that concept of am I worth anything?
No.
She doesn't quite say it in that term. It's she wants to find out if she is worthy, if she is ever going to be able to go home. And I think that all stems from she's been told that she's not worthy, but maybe she'll get there. And that is just, for some people, being told that is very much oh, cool. I've got something to strive for and work for. And I think for her, you can see that it just destroyed her. And she's working really hard to build herself back up, but she's got that millstone around her neck of I'm not worthy. I'm never going to be worthy, which made it, I loved seeing Percy then tell her you're damn worthy. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to invalidate the fact that you're trying to help me. And I see the point you're trying to make of the fact that you also understand what it's like to maybe never see your family again. But here's how it's different, and this is why I'm struggling more than you.
Yeah.
And there was never an invalidation, which was just beautiful. And I loved that so much, because it would have been too easy to get into a contest of well, at least you have family to go back to. One day you might be worthy. It doesn't matter. I can't change the past. I'm never going to see my family again.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to, again, have just well done, empathetic human characters with arguably the biggest asshole of the group.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't snappy. It wasn't bitchy. It was just the thing. And that's actually the note that I have down here, is that Pike is still blocked by magic and Keyleth is blocked by anxiety.
Yes, for sure.
With her stuff. But then we do see the scene in the graveyard where the lovely shades come to join us, or shadows come to join us. And then Vox Machina finds that hidden door, and they go down, and then we get that scene of Pike not
and we're here, and so are we.
Yeah. But Pike also not having that thing of the not being able to build the light, giving that job over to Keyleth, who again can't do it because that's a stressful situation, and she panics in that instance, which is why I've got those 2 notes down there. And then I love the fact that it's like there's a hidden thing, they're going to escape, and in any other storyline they would have escaped, but in this it's like, no, we're not that stupid.
Yeah.
We know the door's here. It's like,
it's a cellar door that's like right in the middle of everywhere too. So it's like it's very obvious where it is when you're on the other side of it, which is hilarious.
And it's not overgrown, it's not hidden. Like there's a bit of moss, there's a bit of dirt on it, but it's a door that's just sitting there.
Exactly.
What say you, Billy?
I just like that they got caught. Like,
Yeah.
It's just such a trope for the heroes to be like, we've got to do something, and they can escape for one reason or another. And it was just great for them to get caught and be like, well, fuck you guys. Let's move on.
Yeah. But then they get separated out, and they have that opportunity to,
Like
because
children.
they did get, was that?
They got
Separated like
separated
children.
like children.
Like children, yes. And then,
Because
but
they are.
They definitely are. But that gives them the opportunity to have these deeper conversations. Like, that's the thing that I like about this storytelling in this is they give backstory. They info dump without info dumping. Like, they fill you in on the stuff that you need to know. And it never feels like an info dump. It never feels like a flashback. It never feels like, okay, you need to know this, so we're going to work it in. It's, they get caught and they have these conversations that give Vax and Vex a little bit more of that really dangerous thing that they escaped that was much worse than the current situation that they're in, which is about to get a lot worse. And then we have, Keyleth and Percy together, and that whole dig into where we learn about Keyleth's background and what's happening with her. And then there's the freaking hilarious and poignant scene with Grog and Pike, where Pike is trying to meditate and trying to get through, and Grog is stumbling around in the background eating her family and doing everything.
Yeah. So I do love the fact that he is perpetually hungry just by virtue of the fact that like his muscle mass requires that. Like when you see guys that are bodybuilders, like the dude who played the Mountain in Game of Thrones, like that dude has the most insane regimen for food and has to eat so much to be able to keep up the muscle mass required for doing his job. So I like that it's not just a gag that Grog always is hungry. It's an actual like, no, he does kind of need that so that he can still be the big barbarian rager that he is required to be for this group.
Yeah.
But also, yeah.
It becomes a workout. It becomes another thing. Like when I was powerlifting and Olympic lifting, I was taking in usually between 5,000, 5,500 calories a day.
Yeah.
So like my lunch would be a cup of rice and a chicken breast.
Yeah.
And my breakfast would just it was just, you went to the gym to work out, and then you also worked out at the table because it was just one more rep, just one more bite, just get it into you. And I love the fact that that's factored in.
But also like the...
Sorry, go on.
After you, Billy. I talk too much.
I do too. However, I still, like, every time it comes up, all I can think is Scooby-Doo. I'm just like, oh, okay, Scooby, go get your lunch.
I was also thinking about, like, from going back to After the Weave, Alana, the Green Aja, she's always got food in her hand. Like, if she walks out of the meeting, the first, like, one of her warders, his sole job, it looks like, is to just give her food whenever she walks past. So I like the fact that, again, we're watching another show that's fantasy, and there's a character whose trope is they're always eating, which is pretty fantastic. But yeah, that whole thing of interrupting the meditation, trying to, like, putting his head in the box. Again, there's just this, they do such a good job of having these poignant scenes. And then this comedy trope going back and forth. Like, Grog, to me, is becoming... this is really going back. I don't know if any of you are even going to recognize this. Billy might. But there was a series of videos or movies years ago called the Ernest movies. Ernest Goes to Jail, Ernest Goes to Camp, all of these different things.
Okay.
So Ernest Goes to Camp.
There's a story about that.
Yeah, Grog, to me, is the golf cart from Ernest Goes to Camp, where there's this, like, serious scene, and all of a sudden you see the stupid golf cart go buttering through the background. And Grog does that trope so well, where there's like this scene where Pike is trying to connect, and this whole thing of like, is she not going to? And then he walks up and asks her if she always talks in her sleep. There's just always something that he breaks the seriousness with.
Yeah, and he does it in such an earnest way, like he's not for the pun, but
there's an important.
As soon as I said it, I was like, shit. But he does it in a genuine way that it's not him just trying to be funny. It's him just existing, and you can see there is a little bit of him kind of doing the I know something's wrong, but she hasn't told me what's wrong, so I'm just gonna continue existing, and she'll tell me eventually. And yeah, when Pike does like lose it, which I love that the setup is right after, of course, he's like accidentally eaten her family's ashes. When you get her like stand up and whip around, like you're expecting her to be like, could you fucking not? And the fact that she just like grabs him for that hug is just, it's all the feels, just all of them.
Most definitely. And that thing, again, just that whole thing where it's just, you know, she's like, I don't think that the afterlife can hear me. That, like, you know, I don't think that I'm being heard, that I can connect, like, to the goddess. And his response of, well, when I'm not being heard, I just talk louder. It's like, you get it, but you don't get it. And again, I think that might be, again, like you said, one of those scenes of like, yeah, I'm not just going to say they're there. I'm going to try to lighten the tension a little bit by saying something that's absurdly stupid, but still kind of fits in the I'm trying to help phase of things.
I mean, arguably, it is legitimate advice, because it might not be something you want to take literally of shout at the Everlight until you are heard, because that won't work. But it could be taken as the like, oh, okay, what do I need to do to up how I'm talking to her, how I'm trying to reach her? And which also then just makes the fact that he says like, well, do you need to say sorry? Is so, I love it, because that is like, you have the most ultra masculine character on the show do the, well, I just get big and loud when people can't hear me, and then immediately switch to a, well, have you tried apologizing? And it's fucking perfect, because one, you don't see people offer a have you tried apologizing without it being really condescending often. But then to put it in the character, you know, the line of dialogue for the character who is, you know, the murderous rage masculinity, to then have him also be the one who can do the, no, if I've hurt someone's feelings, I say sorry. Maybe you need to say sorry. And I love it so much.
He is such a just kind, loving character that just happens to be a murder hobo. That's all. Just loves to go murdering people.
Well, he's not a hobo anymore. They have a keep. The murder hobos got murdered.
Yeah, they're murdered, so he can't be one of them.
But yeah, so that I do love the fact. And then again, we finally get that moment of, I don't know if Pike would have opened up that way if they had been all together in a group. You know, I think that shows that she feels safe with him, and that there is this, again, this depth of relationship that they have that, you know, I think that's where, I think some of the stuff that he says and does is what I got a note down here of comic relief, of breaking the tension, of breaking the ice for things, because if they've been around for a long time, as long as they've purported in this scene, he knows when she's meditating. He knows what she's doing. He knows when she's trying to connect. So to him come up and be like, and she's not sleeping, she's on her knees in front of an altar. And for him to come up and say, do you always talk in your sleep? He's not that stupid. He knows she's not sleeping, right? And to me, that's just kind of like, like LJ said, there's something going on with you. You're not telling me. So I'm just going to kind of poke around the edges until maybe I hit a nerve. And then you're going to spill the beans. And it seems, again, that seems like something that he knows how she ticks and knows how to get her to open up without, you know, being that demanding, toxic masculine screaming, tell me what's going on.
Yeah, I really couldn't sum it up better than you two have. The relationship is just so pure, and and has been from the beginning. Like LJ said, your first instincts when you see Grog pick her up and put her on his shoulders, no questions asked, anything like that, kind of makes you raise an eyebrow. But now we're seeing the depth of this relationship, and it's really heartwarming, especially to see this alpha, like big muscle bound, big axe, I'm gonna fight you and it's gonna be awesome guy having this vulnerability and honestly really good advice, even if he says it in a very simplistic way. Like he's trying, which when was the last time the muscle bound fighter gave good advice in a meaningful way, or even uh, had the ability to offer any kind of comfort to someone like it. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
wow.
Well, that's
Wow,
it,
wow,
and
wow.
and I think LJ put it well earlier when she said that, it could have very well been okay, we get it, you're Drax, where it's just the big muscle bound
Yep.
guy that wants to murder everything and is just the dumb comic relief. There's
Mm-hmm.
not a whole ton of depth to that character, at least in the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise so far. So you do get a little bit of depth once in a while with him, but nothing to the tune of this, where he's, like that scene of the Zarg nuts, where he's just like, I've mastered the ability to stand so still, no one can see me. Like, that's a hilarious scene. It's really well done. But
Yeah.
it goes no further into that, and that's what we see with Rog, where it's, yeah, he really is. The more we're talking about this, the more I'm realizing that it is his stupidity. I would probably say is 70% false flag operations, where he's trying to get people to underestimate him, to not take him as a serious threat, to not think that he's got the ability to plan and be 2 steps ahead of you.
And I think some of it too is that he is just he is very genuine and childlike in many ways. So he isn't borrowing trouble that it doesn't need to be there. He's very much a like live in the moment kind of person that you can see. So he's not going to sit there and worry about stuff when there's no point in worrying about it because he's just gonna go and fuck it up. Like he's just gonna go kill the Briarwoods. Why worry about it? Like let's go work out or eat food or whatever because that's just it. Whereas, everyone else is definitely doing a lot of the worrying and planning and all of those things. And it's he knows his plan and he can be flexible with his plan. And I think that even if he is like planning 2 steps ahead and some of it's false flag, I think at the same time, there is an element of he's just really flexible, that he's willing to go with the flow. And sometimes that means he's just a goofball. And sometimes that means he's giving Pike a cuddle because she desperately needs a good hug.
Yeah. It is such a great, and I love the fact that, again, like we've already talked about Keyleth and Percy, but that whole thing of, there's just, like, you can see the group becoming closer knit and tighter knit, and you really see Percy's walls getting torn down. By everything that happens, all the walls that Percy has gets torn down. And again, he's not being aggressive about it. He's not being angry or mean about it. He's just, the most angsty he is the, you don't understand. And everyone's response is, then fucking tell us.
Yeah.
Stop telling us we don't understand and just tell us what's going on. And then,
yeah, I did like the scene when they're doing the we all have to give out all of our backstories now, and them doing the, well, yeah, when your backstory comes to kill us, we need to know. And I really liked having that of the like, nah, you can keep your secrets if you want to, as long as your secrets aren't going to kill us. As soon as your secrets become my problem, open the fuck up.
Yeah. That's a big thing for it. And now after all that, we get into the The shadows. I freaking love how the animation of these things, how they, like, their interactions, like coming through the wall. It was just, they did these wraith things so well for this scene, or for this episode.
I want 3. Just 3. I'll keep 3 out in front of the house.
Yeah.
I want them. Like, so one of my favorite parts though about it is the fact that Trinket comes out of this okay, because Delilah is not wasteful with her spell work. There is clearly not a line of spell work, a line of code in that is just a murder the shit out of everyone. It is very clearly a get that fucking book and kill who you need to. And Trinket was not on that radar. And that makes me very happy, because you do have the shadow creature in the tree and Trinket doing this is not okay.
Yeah.
And Trinket's not the one who dies. So props to Delilah.
Yeah, I do really like that. But I also like the fact that they carry forward the trope of the magic, where it's whenever Delilah's magic is coming in, light goes out. Torches flicker, candles go out. Also, light hurts these creatures, as we learn at the end. But there is that thing of her magic, is that whenever her magic is being done, there's the big tell, because there's this, and all the lights or all the flames go out, and everything is cast into darkness, which is great. But yeah, I love that Trinket.
Lots of literal metaphor in the visuals for it.
Yeah, but I do love the fact that Trinket's not, like, they don't go through the trope of, oh, we're going to pull on heartstrings and we're going to severely injure Trinket and make you think that something's going to happen and get you upset and, like, pull in that. They could have gone that. They could have added more emotional depth to it, but it would have been artificial or contrived, and they didn't do that. So what are your thoughts on the wraiths, Billy?
So this is my big bone. This is my big bone of the episode. I think for the past 3 episodes, I have felt that these battles have been very perilous. Like, I'm not sure who's going to die. Very, very enthralling. And this one, I think they completely lost that. These creatures very clearly kill the shit out of those guards.
Yeah.
Like, they put their hands in them, smash them against walls. That's it. When they first put their hands through Keyleth and pulled her against the wall, I nearly crapped myself. Because I was like, they're killing Keyleth. They're killing Keyleth right now. She's dead.
I had the same thought.
Should have.
And she survived.
Yeah.
And then they did everything all over the place to everyone else in that room. And I was just like, well, they're not going to die, because I just saw that it doesn't matter. Like, this battle is a joke now, because Keyleth should have died in that very first thing. Or at the very least, should have been injured in a way that was meaningful or something, and they didn't. And that entire battle, for me, was wasted. I just think that all the other battles that they've had felt so much more meaningful. And this one was just like,
yeah.
They're invincible.
I can see that, because everybody that these creatures laid hands on, except for, well, I mean, the guard was in with Vox, but everyone that these creatures laid hands on died. And even when I thought the same thing when they grabbed Scanlan,
Decimated.
I was like, oh shit, Scanlan, like, that's. But again, it was that kind of higher level.
Yeah.
Although I did like the fact that we got to see Keyleth transform into the jackalope.
Into the jackalope.
Yeah. That absolutely real creature, the jackalope.
Yeah. No, we just played a little piggy in the middle with the book and the wraiths, because, it just turned into a little bit of the schoolyard of, we're playing keep away, and here go, this is what you do. I think that's valid criticism, though, because it very much was a Captain Plot Armor is here.
Mm-hmm.
Because they also all came out of it too intact.
Okay.
Like, even just the fact that they were able to get cleaned up afterwards and leave in the morning, and everyone looked fine. Like it was not a we need to recover. We need a moment. Like it was basically the okay, we've burned them out and now we're done. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that in some ways this is the first fight that like the rule of cool got in the way because the design is amazing.
Oh yeah.
For these creatures. The magic is amazing. It is dark, it is gory. I love that it is the congealed blood that is everywhere. And it is disgusting and poisonous and awful and so cool. And then so impotent when it matters.
Well, and they also dropped the ball psychologically for this. Because I'm sorry, but if I'm standing there against a brick and castle walls, they're like 6 feet thick. So if I'm standing there against like a 6 foot thick castle stone wall, and all of a sudden hands go through my chest, grab me and raise me 10 feet into the air and start crushing me and blood starts coming up my eyes, I'm not going to wake up the next morning going, where's my coffee? Let's go for a walk. I'm going to need some time to think about I just had this creature's hands go through my body and crush me against a wall. Like there again, I mean, I understand storytelling, moving things forward, but for all the things that they've gotten right to this point, to skip over that disaster, like that massive of a fight, whether or not it was kind of tropey and like Captain Armor came out, it was an insane battle. It was fast moving. There were these creatures that they couldn't, like Grog said, like, why can't I hit you? And
I like that he was using the book, even though I hate him for using the book as a weapon. The fact he was trying to smack them with the book.
That was the thing. But again, I just felt, again, the psychology part of it, where it's just kind of like, you've hit those notes. They hit the note of the anxiety with Keyleth, bang on again. But there was no, even if there, I would have even been happy with, because Percy was going to sneak out on his own, and they're all standing there, and just kind of like, even just a nod of like, you all okay? No, but we're going to be. Right?
Just even looking haggard. They all look too ready to go. Like, as you know, you guys have said, it's they looked like they had their morning coffee and they were just, let's get going. We're going to go take down the Briarwoods. And it's like, you had a fight with Silas and Delilah. And then hours later, like this is still the same night that all of that happened. That they now have gotten Briarwood fight, Shade Monsters, and now they're leaving. Like, they have had their asses handed to them brutally twice. There is no amount of adrenaline that is making you get up in the morning looking that good.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what brings me back to my original point about the healing at the beginning, is I am not opposed to the fact that they got healing and now they're ready to go on an adventure. But it's the fact that we know nothing about what's going on. At the beginning, they were really hurt. They got healing, fine. We didn't see it, fine. But now they just went into a battle where something happened. Something made it so that they needed to spend the night doing something, and they're ready to go in the morning. We're missing something.
Yeah.
Something is missing.
And that's really fair. That would have been a better moment to have had Pike talk about the fact that she wasn't going to be going with them. That like she can't heal them, she can't do these things because some level of healing magic should have been needed and required to be able to fix everything. Like a bath should have not fixed the problems that they were encountering, and it would have been
maybe
maybe just a really good Epsom salt bath was all they needed. But yeah, there should have been, that was a good time for Pike to have to be able to do the, look, I can't fix this, and this is why, and also kind of tangentially, I do love the design of when Pike is in that mental space, the other realm, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. And you just see Delilah's magic. And I love that it's almost a really neat allegory even for like a negative mental health moment or depression or any of these kinds of things that you just kind of get bogged down and sucked into, that again, if there's those internal things with Pike, whether like how much of it is a yes, you know, Delilah has caused this curse that's broken you, or if she's just kind of like poked and released a bunch of things that are you internally, which is exciting to find out later. But yeah, I think there could have been more with Pike and her healing and abilities.
And I guess in a way, Pike does kind of come out and say that in the next instance, because that's the morning where she's like, "Hey, I'm not going with you guys." And I understand that maybe seeing her falter in that moment wouldn't have made that departure as emotional or as eye-opening as it was, which is why I think that her faltering with the healing maybe should have been at the beginning of the episode, because I feel like having no idea of how they are getting themselves healed enough, ready enough to go into these battles again, without Pike being able to do it, and then having Pike leave, to me, it just feels like we needed something. I think it should have been at the beginning, so that you could get over the fact, find out how it is that they are getting healed, without having it right before Pike leaves.
Yeah, and
so that you can
honestly,
still have that emotion.
Vex is like group mom. You very much see that when she does the like, Percy, sit the fuck down, we're gonna have a talk. It almost would have been like a good moment to have had Vex even pull Pike aside, because then you could have had, you know, a Pike doing the look, there's something I need to tell you, and then cut, and then you can have it go to them all leaving in the morning, and still then have Pike do the no, I'm not coming, and having the emotional moment there with Grog, because I think regardless of whether you, the viewer, know that she's gonna leave, what really sells that scene is Grog doing the, well, but what if I need you?
Yeah.
And that's, again, just this like heart melting moment of the, could you stop being a puppy?
Yeah,
It's
that was
too cute and too perfect.
That was an intense scene. But just to flash back for just 1 second, because listen to what
Sorry.
we're talking about as we break down on all this stuff. I see Billy's point on that, and I think too that because they were trying to do that emotional punch at the end, I think they were pulling through, and I think that would have ramped up the tension of that battle scene if we walked into that battle scene with the Wraiths knowing that they can't get healed. And because it almost seemed like in that scene where it's like, well, Pike can't heal, people, like the audience knows that, but the group doesn't know that. So we're not going to put them into a situation where they need to be healed necessarily. There's not, because in every other battle, but against the dragon, against whatever, there's been a scene where someone has had almost died. And Pike has had to step in to heal Grog with the dragon. And then was it Percy? No, it's Vax with the battle against the Briarwoods. And then, so this is the first one where the stakes, the tension wasn't there. And that could have been, in my mind, thinking about this now, that could have been because they were holding this, I can't heal, I'm leaving kind of thing at the end. And had they introduced that sooner, then they could have increased that battle tension so much more. And because then you're going to be like, oh shit, like if someone does get to that point, they're done. They can't, what are they going to do? So I think in trying to build up for this emotional impact at the end, they kind of pulled some punches that they could have thrown earlier.
Yeah, they definitely undercut this fight, given how excellent the previous one was. Like, them versus Silas and Delilah was absolutely epic. Like, gorgeous fight, well done choreography. And this one, I mean, I loved much of it because of the fact that you showed me shiny magic and shiny villains, I will be distracted.
Yeah.
But when watching it critically, you get that of the, it's not just the usual, of course they're not gonna die, they're the good guys. The good guys never die. It's the, no, this is the first one where there's enough plot armor required that it feels almost like these villains were like these monsters were too cool for what was being done. Like it would have been really neat to have, instead of them murdering all of the guards, having them just hyper focus on the book and have it be no, you're in my way getting the book. I grab you, throw you into the wall, and I've grabbed the book and go, you know, and you've managed to turn on a light, you know, light a torch, whatever, you've stolen the book back. And there's a different dynamic to it of people being hurt and injured, but not necessarily killed, so that you aren't having those moments of like, well, why did all of the guards die except Captain Jarrett?
Yeah.
And everybody else just walked out fine.
Well, and to be fair, it was a cool scene. It was a really cool fight scene.
Yeah.
Like, these enemies
Absolutely.
were amazing, and what they can do and all that stuff was fantastic. There was just, when it came to the actual core battle, there was no teeth, because there was no one was put in any dire circumstances. They always were pulled away at the last moment, just in time, or in some instances, like Keyleth, where it should not have been just in time. There should have been more damage done. The other thing that bothered me too was, and maybe it was a trope that they were trying to walk away from, but they never lost the book once. The book was kicked out on the floor, and like there was an almost a point, but at no point did any of the Reds actually grab the book, and they have to get the book back from it. They maintained possession the entire time.
I honestly believe that if the Wraiths got the book, there would have been no getting it back. So as much as I agree that was missing and would have made it exciting, I don't think it would have been reasonable, because I think they would have just been gone.
But there wasn't even like a closeness to it. Like, there's no point where they're even like two hands just missing. Like, it was just Vox had the book entirely. I mean, to be fair, it was also 8 against 3. So
yeah,
with Jared, the guard was 8.
I just had to count.
Group, right? Yeah, there's 7 in the group, so 8 with the guard. Anyways, but then we do have this scene, which I gotta say, I've had a rough couple of weeks, and that damn scene with Grog made me tear up. Like, I actually shed some tears over that scene, and I was trying to explain it to my wife, and I'm like, I gotta, and I walked away. So it was just, I've had so much pent up emotion inside myself over the past couple of weeks, and this scene coming through, and just having someone that's like, you know, you mean so much to me. What if I need you? And that whole, and her response, like, just that whole dialogue was insanely well written, and just like didn't tug at the heartstrings. It like pulled a Silas and grabbed you by the heart and squeezed.
Yeah, decimated the heartstrings.
Yeah.
Even for someone who's not cheering for the good guys, it's a beautifully done scene. Like, it, down to the animation, you know, little things like him going down to her level, you know, having the eye to eye contact of the, no, but I'm gonna come with you. No, you're not coming with me. Okay, but what if I need you? I'll be here in all the ways that matter. And the, like, him doing the, but I'm not prepared for this. I'm not ready for this. And it is really tough having that, especially given, you know, kind of a lot of the stuff that you two have been through very recently, and like the losses that I've had over the past couple years, even, of the things are sudden and it sucks and you're not prepared for them. That this really was a very beautifully done, cathartic scene of, again, really well, beautifully written masculinity of just but what if I need you? What if, like, these are my emotions that I'm having, and being honest and honoring them.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just a phenomenal scene. And then there's there's the other thing where we're all going to go with you. And again, I like the fact that they don't belabor points that don't need to be belabored. They could have been Percy digging his heels, be like, no, I have to do this by myself. This is my family. But we're a group. And it was just, you're sneaking out? Well, I'm going yet, and we're going with you. So shut up, stop the lies and the secrets, and let's do this.
It definitely reminded me of the, like, Frodo and Sam of the, no, I'm going alone. Of course you are. And we're coming with you. Like, all right. This is just how it is.
Yeah. No, that's it. And again, it's not Pike like losing strength or losing belief or losing like courage or anything like that. It's just you know what, for whatever reason that I don't understand, Pike didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. So unless LJ is right and that magic opened up something in her that she was keeping bottled up and hidden aside, some inner darkness, there's no reason for her to go and apologize to the goddess, unless there's something in her past that she's been clinging on to. Because you can tell from the very first episode, there's something, right? Even when she's asked to bless the house and she's like, I haven't done that in a long time. Like, you know, there is something. So we don't know. On first blush, there's nothing that she has to apologize to the goddess for. But there's something that she needs to make amends with. And it's, again, I like the fact that it's not her losing courage or anything like that. It's just like, no, there's something that I need to do, and I'm going to go do it.
Admittedly, I kind of wish that she had taken Trinket with her.
Yeah, it bothers me that Trinket is... That's something I wanted to bring up too. It really bothers me that Trinket is left behind. Because the guard is awesome, and he now is like, I'm going to try to fix this whole thing. And we know that the Sovereign loves Trinket because he loves the bear, but he's under mind control. So the Sovereign is that riled up and that pissed off that they destroyed the realm and destroyed everything, and then they fucked up the castle again and then absconded in the first thing in the morning before he can be there. Like, is Trinket going to be in any kind of trouble? Is Trinket going to be in any kind of danger? Is the Sovereign going to try to take out their anger or something on Trinket? Like, I was like, when they left, I was like, not cool, man. Not cool. Like, how is Trinket safer here with this guy that's pissed off at all of you right now, and you're not there to take care of it?
Yeah, I'm going with Trinket's a bear, and Trinket's going to do what the fuck he Trinket's going to do what Trinket wants. I feel like Trinket is, when Trinket decides, you know what, I'm going to go off and follow my people. I don't think that there's any stopping Trinket if they decide I'm going to go follow my people. Because even when they were tied to the tree, I'm still going with Trinket was only tied to that tree because Vex was in the keep.
Yeah.
Reasonably certain had Vex and Vax decided, no, we're leaving, Trinket would have just knocked the tree over and walked out.
I love that scene, by the way, too, when you see them tying Trinket up and there's like 4 guards fighting with a rope, trying to tie the rope around. Again, just a subtle, like, I love animations and other movies as well, but I find it's really well done often in animations where there's the background gags, where there's the whole action is happening here, but if you look over here, there's something ridiculously funny happening. I've always been a huge fan of background gags, and even with that with Trinket, where it's just they're getting their weapons taken away, they're being locked away, the guards are dealing with them like really rough-handedly, and you see Trinket just kind of like sitting there and 4 guards trying to tie it to a tree. It was impressive.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and then the other thing is with that scene is Pike not that there's 2 other really emotional, poignant scenes in that, and that's when we see that when Pike turns to Keyleth, because we didn't hit the fact that Keyleth created the sun that saved everything, right? That like the ball of light that stopped the wraiths and allowed them to crush them and get rid of them, but
yeah, she needs to be nerfed. Like, as I said earlier, Delilah has got, like, she took Pike out of the picture. Keyleth needs to be the next one. Yeah. Because otherwise she's fucked.
Well, and that's the thing. I really like that thing where Pike is like, Pike doesn't have a moment with everybody. Pike has a moment with Grog. Vex has a moment with Trinket. And Pike has a moment with Keyleth where she's like, you're their light now. You know, believe in yourself, basically. You're their light. And the other thing that really hit
no
me...
pressure.
Exactly.
No pressure, Queen of Anxiety.
The other thing that really hit me is, like we said before, there's a thing, at least in Scanlan's mind, between him and Pike. And just that moment, yeah. The look on his face when Pike was leaving and he was walking away was just kind of like his arm was cut off. And it was just, again, like there's just so much emotion packed into that final scene. It was really, really well done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So there's a little bit of inside baseball in this scene that I'm not sure if you guys are interested in.
Always.
Um, so the person that created Pike and who voices Pike, Ashley Johnson, during their actual tabletop game, got a job, got like legit acting, needed to be there in person job, and had to leave the campaign for a while.
Mm.
And that's where her leaving the group is actually stemming from. Now, I'm very interested to know what they're going to do with that, because as far as the table was concerned, she just disappeared. She just went away for a pretty good amount of weeks because she had a job. She had something she had to do. Now, with something like this media where they get to tell stories away from the camera, away from, the main group, where we get to see things with Silas and Delilah, like conspiring and stuff. I imagine we're going to see what the hell Pike has been doing while she has been off camera for us at the table. So I'm very, very excited about it. And this is why I made a point of pointing out that we knew nothing about Pike. Because we really, at the table, we knew nothing about Pike.
She just noped the fuck out one day.
Yeah. I mean, she was tactful. Like, she was like, yeah, sorry, guys. I'm going to be gone for a little bit. I'm going to try to come in and play. But
yeah, but like life gets in the way sometimes when you're playing D&D.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm like, I've got a lot of people want me to start a campaign or jump in on campaigns that they have going on, and it's just my number one thing is, can I make that commitment with everything that's happening right now? Can I make that commitment? And I'm actually I've been on a side tangent. I've been asked to on Wednesday, I'm starting a writing group for a professional writing organization, and I'll be overseeing, I think, 11 people coming in and doing a writing group. So there's another thing being added to my plate, but it's only going to be twice a month, so it shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, so that's the thing is, like, sometimes life pops up and you have to deal with things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
no, I do love the like having this as the medium now for some of Critical Role's storytelling, is that this does give you so many more opportunities, because you can't easily go and spend your D&D time going and saying, hey, we're gonna now sit here and read about what Silas and Delilah have been doing for a while, or any of those kinds of things. Or here, we're just gonna take away for a little while and talk about what Pike's doing, because we're gonna make some shit up. Because you have a limited amount of time and you want to focus on the characters you're actually playing with and doing stuff with. And so it is really exciting to have a medium that gives you more time to play in more sandboxes.
Yeah.
Because I think that one of the strengths of the show going forward, now that we are kind of splitting the party, is is going to be the fact that you're going to get some good emotional breaks and some good emotional tension build up between all of these different storylines going forward, because there's no way that we don't continue to get Pike's story going forward. There's no way that we don't continue to get Silas and Delilah. All of them are just too much fun to just drop and not have around all the time.
Yeah.
Or if they do, I'll be most upset, because I mean, I'm here for the show, but I'm really here for Silas and Delilah.
That's the show, isn't it? Isn't it the Silas and Delilah show?
Yeah. Should be renamed.
And I actually had a really shocking epiphany today. Because Delilah, I really like Delilah, and there's just something about Delilah and Silas as well. There's something about Delilah that stuck out to me. The very first time I saw her, not the voice, I was like, there's something about this character. And because as you know, I used to work in classical music, and there's this extremely talented cellist that I know. And she basically is the living iteration of Delilah.
Can I meet her?
Voice, looks, appearance, everything. Like, she essentially is Delilah. From seeing this, but not evil. She's just
little spooky.
Yeah, her magic is the cello. Like, she's an amazing cellist. But
So she's a bard.
yeah. But again, like, I was actually funny because I saw a photo of her today that she put on social media, and I was like, oh wow, that's. And then I watched this episode again today, and I was like, oh wow, that's her. Like, that's why Delilah stood out to me so much. Is that that's her? So,
Yeah. Delilah stands out to me because I adore her voice actor. Like,
Same.
She's just amazing, and I love what she always brings to the table with her acting. And again, like, Matt Mercer also has an incredibly wonderful voice, and I am very much here for those scenes between the two of them, especially when they're talking to each other, because it is just you guys are so goddamn cute together. And like, I love it when you get villains that have like good relationships, non-toxic relationships with each other.
Yeah.
Because you get those emotional hits then inevitably when they die. Because especially if one dies first, because you have then all of those very real grief and negative emotions that they have to deal with, which is just so much fun when the writers let those things happen. And I really hope that these guys will let that happen, since I think that unfortunately this is going to go the route of most things, where the good guys triumph in the end, my favorite characters die, and there you go. So...
Well, I mean, there's a reason why the villain's story has
fewer steps,
less beats than the hero story does.
This is why I had to write my own series. Like, let's be real. My favorite characters are going to survive. You just don't know who my favorite characters are.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm seeing if I can find this person's picture, so you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully, they won't mind me showing the image. I'll just flash it up on camera really quick so you all can see who I'm talking about.
I mean, if it's a public image.
It is a public image. But this is her.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, that's all. I'll put the photo in our Discord so you can see.
So we know who should really cosplay her.
Don't take her book.
Yeah.
Yes, I will not take her book. I will definitely not take her book. But yeah, but that's actually I don't have much contact with her anymore. But but that was the thing so Delilah really stood out to me. I was like, oh wow, this is pretty wild. But again, another episode where there is a few more missteps than usual. But I think with this depth of a show, then you're going to, or like for this to go this far into episode 4 before you start really having some stumbles, is pretty impressive. Like,
it's still better than episode 1 as far as I'm concerned. Like, the first episode was really, it wasn't so rough that it was like, I don't know if I really want to continue this, but it was significantly less quality than the subsequent episodes. And I think that this is a stumbling episode. There are legitimate criticisms of it, but for the most part, for it to be episode 4, season 1, still pretty damn solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I would say episode 1 was just heavy-handed. It was just a little heavy-handed.
But I think it did a good job of doing what a first episode needs to do, and that is,
absolutely,
this is the ride you're going to be in for. This is what's happening. This is the level and the speed and the humor and everything that you're going to be going for with this. And then
got the barf counter out of the way at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then they healed it back. I think had they kept the gas down, they would have destroyed it. But so far, every episode has had a ring back to the first episode. There's been something that you can link back and being like, okay, yeah, they promised me this in this first episode. You know, the blood and violence, the humor, the whatever, the impropriety that they have, like all these things were kind of promised. in that episode as we went along.
Now we're just getting this quality of storytelling
Yeah.
that, really is going to make this show something well worth rewatching and sticking with for years. Like it's becoming something that it is almost hitting the same point for me of like Arcane, where I watched that show and went, this is hitting all of the right beats. There's not a moment wasted on contrived bullshit, and this is just going forward, and I love it. And this show is hitting the same level for me of the like, yeah, I'm gonna finish it and I'm gonna want to rewatch it again immediately. Like it's not going to be well, that was nice, I can put it on the shelf and maybe I'll get back to it someday. It's going to very much so be the okay, well, another.
And to watch it straight through, like the fact that the way it's done is like something that's very binge worthy and very bingeable. But I think that's something too that if you look at the with the idea of the nesting the story, each episode being a little story that goes part of a bigger thing, and a big thing that we talk about in writing all the time is crossing the threshold and being like going into the extraordinary world from the ordinary world. And they do that so well with this, where we see them in the ordinary world, they cross the threshold into the sovereign's palace and they get this mission. They cross the threshold into the Cheryl Steps and deal with the dragon, and then they come back and they're changed, and their new ordinary world is in the castle, and then something happens to upset that, and then again they're literally crossing a threshold as they walk out of the castle and go to head toward Whitehaven. And I think that's something that, or Whitestone, I
can't wait to get there. I am so excited. So excited.
Yeah, I haven't had an opportunity to sit down and watch the rest of the episodes. I plan on doing that this week if life gives me a pause. Yeah. So I'm up to episode 4. I have no idea what happens past this. So judging from Billy's reactions, I've got an inkling that I might have hit a couple of nails in my guessing moving forward. Maybe not, but
I will say that I purposely emote all the time, regardless of what's coming. So
that's awesome.
Because I don't want to accidentally give anything away, so I try to give everything away.
Yeah, and I try to play dumb on stuff. So some things that I do know, that like when I do go ahead on stuff, then there are things that I try to play dumb on. But which I think Billy and I handled really well with Wheel of Time. We played dumb on a lot of stuff, and I think we caught that pretty well. But I am very much looking forward to the rest of this, and I think it's been a long time that I've been this excited about a series, or this excited about, especially in animation. It's been quite a while.
So once again, thank you, Billy, for the recommendation.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I think it's impressive to look at it and say it is a 25-minute show that it is easy to spend an hour and a half talking about. When I took 3 pages of notes this time, and there's a lot of pausing and starting and pausing and starting. And it takes me, the second time watching it through, like, again, an hour and a half to actually make it all the way through the episode, because there is so much that upon the rewatch you can get out of it, metaphorically, analogously. Like, there's just so many things you can pick up and play at, that it is an excellent series that even if you are looking to build up your own storytelling abilities, that it is worth sitting down and watching, even if you're not writing fantasy, even if you're not, or even if it's not medieval fantasy. It is just solid storytelling that you can learn from.
100%. And that's something that I tell writers all the time, and it goes for actors as well, being a thing that if you want to get better at your craft, watch and consume whatever you can. And don't just consume it mindlessly. Consume it for entertainment value the first time, most definitely. But the second time, if you hated it, watch it again. Why did you hate it? What did you hate about it? What fell flat? What didn't work? What did work? There's always going to be something that you like about a piece of media. There's always going to be something that you don't like about it. So actually have those conversations. Like, put yourself through film school every time you watch something, every time you read something. Pull it apart, dissect it, and see the how and the why of things. And it's going to make a big impact on how you view your own writing or your own acting and how you're moving forward on things. I think it really makes a big thing. And that's one of the things that I think irritates me with this. When they do have these little things, like the blood in the glove continuity or the book spinning continuity or something like that, is, like we said, this is an animation that is easy to get into and forget that you're watching an animation. And when something like that happens, it breaks the fourth wall. It really reinforces that, hey, this is an entertainment piece that you're looking at. And it kind of, at least me, kind of tugs me out of the story a little bit. And it's like, okay, I was really in a flow there, and it was really awesome, and you just pulled me out. But luckily, and that's the impact of it, is in most things you get bounced in and out so often, especially in movies or television shows, that you get used to it. But with this, the storytelling is so often so clean for large spans that when you do get bumped out, it's all that much more rankling that you've gotten bumped.
Definitely.
So, any final thoughts on this episode?
I think we pretty much covered it for my 3 pages worth of notes that I took. I enjoyed it. I just looking at my notes again, and the reiteration of the I would strangle Scanlan for getting mustard on my book. And not in a way that he would enjoy. So
I don't know if there is a way that he wouldn't enjoy, but I
find it.
And also we found out that our friend is coming back the next episode. They're going back to buy more glorious goods to try to help them
Gonna go to Gilmore's
on their next stage of their adventure. So I am looking forward to that. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us again for After the Roll, The Legend of Vox Machina. This was Season 1, Episode 2, Shadows at the Gate, that we're breaking down. Another fantastic episode. We're looking very forward to the next episode, and we will be back next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to break down the next episode of The Legend of Vox Machina. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and thank you to my co-host for being here and breaking this down. And with that,
always
have a great night, everyone, and we'll catch you again next time.
Yeah.